Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
We're here to talk about Waxworks. But before we get into the work of wax, we're going to do a little mailbag, Aaron.
All right, man.
So, we got some feedback on Twitter. Danny Hudson, he says, amazing to think that some guys from the U.S. talk about the computer I played on in Sheffield, UK back in the mid-90s. Still love Amiga to this day. Great pod.
Oh, that's nice. Did you ever live in Sheffield?
That's where I lived when I lived in the
That's
UK.
what I thought. So that's nice. One of your people over there.
That's right.
You're a transplanted Sheffieldian.
I am.
What do they call themselves
You can
over
tell by
there?
the accent that I was
Is it
born
Sheffieldian,
and bred
Sheffieldites?
there. Northern is what
That's
they call
all.
it.
Well, there you go. That's easier.
So, Aaron, we got a piece of physical mail in the mail.
As opposed to metaphysical.
As opposed to metaphysical mail. This is a letter. This is from Erky. Erky.
Not Urkel.
Not Urkel.
All
He's
right.
not involved.
So
Hi,
we got
John.
wait a second. You actually got a physical letter?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. That's great.
Okay. Hi, John and Aaron. I started following your podcast back in the beginning of 2016 and have been a loyal listener since. Whenever I create a new playlist of last week's Amiga and retro gaming related podcasts for my iPod, Amigos episodes get dragged to the top of the list every time. My name is Erki. I'm originally from Estonia, but currently writing you from Toronto, Canada, where I've been temporarily residing for the past few years. He goes on to talk about how he got into the Amiga relatively late in the mid-90s and had an A500 and then a stock 1200 and then a 1200 with the Blizzard 1230 with 16 megs of fast RAM. He used it for BBSing and browsing the web, accessing FTPs and IRC chat rooms. And he says that he believes that Amiga's eyebrows was even, it's funny, eyebrows, but it's eyebrows.
Cute.
Was the first browser on any platform to provide tabbed browsing. Interesting.
Sounds like a study up sort of a gimmick there.
Yeah.
Get on it, boat.
He says, about Amiga days in Estonia, I remember buying Amiga format magazines from a mainstream newspaper outlet, and there was a commercial game called Rockets, spelled cool guy style, from a team of Estonian developers. It is quite polished and offers loads of two-player fun. So we'll have to look at Rockets to see what was going on in the Estonian Amiga development
I like
scene.
that.
And he says he currently has several updated classic 68K systems and even 2 Macs running registered Morph OS. So
Wow.
he is hardcore
Yes.
Amiga power, and he's provided a breakdown of all of his systems and all of his things, so we can take a look at that later. And he says, P.S. I got you guys some tasty treats.
Oh boy.
Okay. So
Uh-oh.
I'm going to unwrap one of these and give it to you because I don't want you to read the label.
Okay. Look
Dunder
what he's
salt
doing.
again.
Look what he's doing to me. I believe I spoke with this fellow during my fighting game stream.
This is one that is broken, so I will give you another one.
Are the candies just loose in there? Or are they in a package? This makes me even more nervous.
Just pop it in. The whole thing.
Okay. Go ahead. What is it?
This is vodka. This is vodka-filled chocolate. What do you think of that?
Give me another one.
All right, I'll give you another one. This is a liqueur-filled chocolate.
You're a fine man. You knew what to send me.
John?
A lot of
thank
people
you.
look at the fatness and think, I'll just send this guy any old candy.
Interesting.
It takes a true professional to look deep inside of me and understand my deep-rooted alcoholism that goes along with the weight.
Now, unfortunately, a lot of these broke in the mail.
That is unfortunate because, man, this right here is what are these insured for?
But what's funny is that the alcohol, of course, immediately evaporates, and you're just left with the good chocolate.
Isn't that bizarre?
Wow.
Those are great. That's straight up booze.
Yeah.
That's not like booze flavored topping.
No.
That's got a kick. I like them.
So,
What a great gift. Thank you. Thank you.
It'd be interesting to find how those are made to keep the alcohol in there.
yeah. So, if you were wondering, because I know several people have tried to send us alcohol internationally in the mail before, all you have to do is just encase it in chocolate.
Get one of
and
those
it
huge
comes
chocolate
through,
bunnies, for Easter, and just to cut a hole in it, just tip up a fifth. Tip it up. The tipsy rabbit.
Right? So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ericy, for that. That was
I'm not
very
100%
kind
sure,
of
but I think I talked to this guy, and like I said, on one of my streams. So.
you. Yeah, and it was so nice to receive actual physical mail of
When was the
any
last time you
kind.
got a proper letter?
I know.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
And after the show, we'll he's got a lot to write about. He thinks that we should do another Amiga FPS show, and he's got reviews of all of the 3D first-person shooters.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so
Bring this guy on board.
Yeah,
Make room, John. You get another seat right there.
So thank you, Ericy.
Yeah, man, we appreciate that. That was great. Very good. Tasty.
All right, Aaron, are you ready to dive in to the world of Amiga news?
Dive in. Before we dive into the Amiga news, I want to dive into related, because I'm not going to say we've been off for several weeks, but we've been ignoring the news for several weeks. And so one thing that released while we were out was the Commodore 64 Mini. All right. Now, I've seen many reviews, and I've seen many people talking about it. These aren't available here in the U.S. unless you have them shipped in. I don't know, have you looked into this thing at all, or watched any reviews, or seen any gameplay footage? Either one of you guys looked into this at all?
I've read some reviews, but I have not looked. I've not seen any gameplay footage.
I've watched a lot of it. I'm not going to go into a big review here since I don't know how to play one, but they look okay. I've heard the joysticks aren't great, and I've heard there's some lag between the stick and the actual unit. But they're attractive little units. They're well boxed. I read how expensive it would be to ship one here, and it's pretty expensive. I think it's like $150, something like that, that's pricey, for a unit. So I don't think I'll be getting one. Plus, again, given the limitations of it in comparison to something we can emulate and plus I've got a couple of C64s, but it's a nice unit, and I think it's doing well, and so. I would like to see I'd like to see this grow into something for the Amiga. I believe the outfit that did this is the same bunch of guys that were working on one of the ZX Spectrum clone devices. I think it's the one that fell through, the handheld unit. I can't recall what that was called. Again,
Was that the Vega?
The Vega. I think that was that one. And I believe I read that they had a deal with the C64 that involved Cloanto as well.
Really?
Which opens the door to the possibility. I think these are selling well. I mean, everyone's been talking about them. I've seen them everywhere. Yeah. So, we got into this in our New Year's Eve predictions show, but I think now I feel even stronger in my stance that there might be a mini Amiga in the future. Would you buy one of those, John, if it came around? If you could get a mini Amiga that had, say, like 60, 70 games on it that you could just plug in HDMI, would it be something that would interest you as a consumer?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I've got the 500 and the emulators and such, but
do you think your average Joe would buy one if they saw it?
I don't think so.
You don't think the boat?
Not in this country.
So you think the chances of it getting released here is a zero, which I agree. Because if they didn't release the 64 here, now they may be doing an import, or maybe someone will start selling them eventually.
Well, yeah, you can buy them right now for sale in the United States. You don't have to get them shipped here.
Where can you buy them at? You mean at a store?
Not at a store, but there's places to buy them online that are U.S. based.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking like these are apparently they're in all the stores over there. Yeah. Which would be great. Like I went and got Teresa the Oregon Trail game. If it was like that, you could go buy one.
Yeah.
That would be great, But we're out of luck on that. So.
Yeah. However, in the UK and in the places where the Amiga was huge, then I could see it more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Part of the appeal of the C64 is that it does have a very distinctive case, a very distinctive color scheme. You know, the brown on lighter brown.
Yeah.
And the Amiga really just sort of looks like a brown.
Brown on lighter brown.
It just looks like.
What if it was the
typical
1000? It's pretty cool looking. Oh,
Yeah,
you're right. It's I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hope springs eternal.
That's
I would
right.
like to see the Amiga in the hands of the common man.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're the podcast for the common man, and we're rooting this on. Thank you, fanfare for me. So, speaking of fanfare, we're not even going to wait. We're not going to put this off. Let's just talk about it now. The big news, Boat. In a stunning turn, as I mentioned on our various accounts, the Amigos Retro Gaming YouTube channel has been named one of the top 40 retro gaming YouTube channels by FeedSpot. Now, FeedSpot, renowned, huge, everyone, it's a household name. And
Did you post this on Google Plus?
I did. And we have been named, it was a while back, weeks and weeks ago. I think I did. It's on Facebook for sure. But we have been named by these fellows, and it came as quite a surprise to us. I had looked into FeedSpot to figure out what they were all about, and we looked at the top 40 to see who were in there, and sure enough, every retro gaming site that you could imagine was there. I think right there you passed it. There you go.
Oh, that's it?
That's
I
it.
was expecting the
Boat's looking for it on the screen. Yeah, I think it was in both.
I thought you were going to post the thing that special medallion.
Oh yeah,
that
they made us a
sent
special ribbon. Now,
Yeah.
but if you flip down to the first couple of names on here, you've got your usual suspects: the angry video game nerd, Pat the Punk. I'm not going to read these, but I'll listen to some of these, like GameSack, Gaming Historian, a lot of good guys. And so, to Kim Justice, who we both love. Do you listen to any of those guys or read any of those? No. We barely staggered in at 39, but hey, we'll take it.
We're right in between Retro Gamer Girl and just retro gaming.
Yeah, hey, we'll take it. It was.
You know what I think happened? I think that they found probably 35 podcasts, and then they're like, "Man, just type in retro gaming."
Now listen,
and take the last 5.
Now wait a minute. Now I thought that way too at first, but I went and looked. First of all, this is a legitimate web page.
FeedSpot is legit.
And secondly, if you Google retro gaming, 4 billion channels come up on YouTube. So I'm going to take it at face value.
Okay.
And say that we were honored, and it is an honor, to be one of the top 40 retro gaming channels as named by FeedSpot. And not just us, but also Retro Hour is in there. They're in the upper 30s. Or 31, 32, something like that. So they were also repping the Amiga. I think there was, I don't know if there's any other Amiga reps up in there that are strictly Amiga. Well, then again, I guess they're not strictly, but they're close.
Neither are we.
Well, that's true. So it was nice. I thought I'd mention it. I was happy.
Yeah.
And I could tell people, I could break the glorious news that we'd made the top 40.
Tell the world.
Hey, this year 39, next year 38.
That's right, baby.
Let's do it, man. So, everything else after that is going to be lamer news, but we'll go ahead and go into it, man. So, let's talk about this article here, and I think you may have posted this one, the History of Amiga Part 12, Red versus Blue. This is the continuing saga on our thing. I have not gotten to read this. How was it?
Chris Folds posted this, actually.
Oh, I'm looking at it on Facebook where someone else posted. So have you got to look at this one yet?
Yeah, so I have not read this, but I know I will because this is a very long-running series. We've talked about it before. This started in 2007 on Ars Technica, and I've learned more from reading this series than any number of other Amiga books / articles online. I mean, it's just a really fantastic history that encompasses the entire.
Yeah, they do a great job. They do a really good job with that run, and it really is. It is quite informative. Another one from Folds. This probably hits close to your heart, Bo. The Art of Point-and-Click Adventure Games, the book.
You know, this is Bitmap Books. They've stumbled upon a formula that seems to be working very well for them, where they basically just, you know, they write short articles about games, and then they take really high res, you know, blow ups of different screenshots and things like that. And boy, this really looks beautiful. This might be the first one of these that I buy, just because there are so many. Remember that video that Brutal put together, the 40 Amiga point-and-click adventure games?
Yeah.
There are so many games that I had no idea existed, and of course the packaging with this is just beautiful.
It looks nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's such an awesome title. Now it's not cheap. It's £30, which is going to be close to $60 US, or if you want the special DOS style game box with it, it's going to set you back 50 quid. So
that's a few bucks.
Yeah,
a few bucks American. But hey, at least it's an option, right? That's you like that stuff too, the point and click stuff. So you can imagine there'd be some pretty good art in there. So yeah, and again, I've heard good things about it. And you're right, they found the niche. There's a group called ECW Press. They do wrestling books, like autobiographies. It's the same sort of thing.
Is the name ECW like public domain now?
Well, it stands for Not Extreme Championship Wrestling. I don't know. Yeah, I'm the same way. I thought, well, that's weird, but yeah, it's that they've done a similar thing. They found the niche of wrestling fans, and they're just feeding them biography after biography and stuff like that. So it's kind of neat. So let's talk about this. Here's another one, and this is one of our boys. This is Chris Folds posted this one up. This is from Duncan Styles, our good and dear friend. His review of the Cyclone RX. It's been used quite a bit amongst our folks in the Discord, and it's a joystick adapter, effectively. And he posted this on our site, and it lets you connect a PlayStation 1 or 2 controller to the Amiga. I saw a guy selling some gimmick like this a couple years ago in one of the I think it was EAB. That it would let you hook a joystick up to it, and you could use the PlayStation joystick as like a mouse and a controller. But anything that lets you use anything you want on the Amiga is good by me. And PlayStation has a good quality gamepad, so sounds good to me. I've got the NES adapter on mine.
Super NES.
Super NES, excuse me. It's funny. I have that. I've had it for a while, and this is completely separate from that. I find myself almost always using the CD32 gamepad on it.
Well, I mean, you've got it. It's there, and it's more authentic.
No, it's not that. I actually like it. I mean, there's something mentally wrong with me.
Well, no, I really,
because it's universally hated. But I mean, and mine, you shake it, it makes a noise, right? Only the best. Much like most of my computers and everything else in my house, but you shake it, you hear a little clicking in there. Whatever fell out in there, not important. But I do enjoy it. I like the way it feels, so I've been using it more and more. Of course, I've got the trusty Wicco as well that I break out.
Piece of garbage.
Oh, how dare you, Boat?
No, the Wicco Ergo is fine. It's that red-handled beast.
Oh well, that's your opinion, of course, and your opinion's wrong. So Duncan again, man, he's been a machine.
Yeah.
This is handy. Where were you, Styles, years ago when I first did this? He's put up a video here, how to set up an Amiga compact flash drive using WinUAE. I'll tell you how. Lots of sweating, lots of furrowing your brow in a vain attempt to understand. That's how I did it. Lots of reading 20-year-old documents you found in the back half of a forum somewhere.
Look how pretty that photo is, too.
Yeah, he did a very good job on this stuff. And man, I mean, it's. Have you ever set one of these up, haven't you? A compact flash?
No, not yet.
I mean, it shouldn't be tough. Everything involved with hardware on the Amiga is like impossible. It just never. I swear to you, every time I get a problem, I'm just like, no. It reminds me of pinball. It's expensive. It's impossible for you to get parts, and it's complicated every single time. And this is no different. So let Duncan hold your hand and help you skip through the path.
Man, thank you so much, Duncan, for putting this guy together. I guarantee you this is going to generate a lot of traffic on everythingamiga.com.
Plus, old Aaron is getting ready to go down that road again. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. We should also mention that the huckster, Gary Hucker, put up episode 5 of Pimping Out the Amiga.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's at it again. In fact, since we've talked, he may have put out 4 and 5. He's been putting those things out pretty regular.
Yeah.
And of course, Gary, he knows what he's talking about. He's the man. So if you want to watch him do his thing, pop one over. I think that one came out last week. Don't hold me to that. I think that's when it came out. It's fairly recently on that one. Let me see if I've got anything else here. Bo, you did a couple streams in the past week. You want to talk about those?
So yeah, every once in a while I'll stream out a lot of NES, Super NES. I just got as a generous gift from Amigos fan Christopher Hassel, aka Hasifa, sent me a SNES Mini, so I did a big stream on that, showing that off, and of course it's all hacked up now, so I've got NES games on that too. But Aaron, really, you're the star of the streaming show now.
Oh yeah, I'm really going crazy with the streams.
So you've done a couple. You did a Super Retrocade stream. And you also did at least a couple Amiga streams.
We did.
Really well.
You know me. I love the old fighting games, and so I thought, I'm going to sit down and play a bunch of Amiga fighting games. And so I started at Street Fighter and went all the way through all the Street Fighters that I could. Then I went through the Mortal Kombats and a couple other wackier ones, and had a good time just streaming. Streaming to me is not something I've done that much, so I'm trying to get into it a little bit, and it's fun. And then one night, I mentioned this a few months ago, I made the idiot purchase of buying a Super Retrocade, and lo and behold, these things are suddenly in vogue. People are they're going crazy for them.
Right.
And I thought, that's weird, so I thought, well, I'm going to try hooking this thing up and just running through some games and seeing how they play, and I put that up, and I was surprised how much people cared about that, because it's not necessarily our bag, but it was fun. And I've got a guest coming in next week, and we're going to play all the rest of the Amiga fighting games, 2-player, and then we're going to go and play a ton of arcade fighting games and stream that one night. It'll be at the midnight special one night. We'll sit around drinking and playing games. So that should be fun. But yeah, just for fun, I'm trying to get into streaming. It's actually pretty fun. I enjoy it. It's nice to have that instant feedback too, when someone can say you're dumb. I guess what they want to. I think that is just about it. I don't know if there's anything else here. There's some. Oh, how could I forget this one, Boat? Speaking of Laserdisc games, which we weren't, but
Super Don Quixote is back.
Super Don Quixote on the Amiga. No, but one almost as obscure, Road Avenger, is now playable on the Amiga. I've played Road Avenger. Have you ever seen that one? They didn't have that one up in Charleston. Sort of an obscure Laserdisc racing title. It's wacky. I know it from I believe it was out on the Sega CD is the place I remember it from. Not in the arcade. But lo and behold, they've actually ported it over to the Amiga. So if you are feeling froggy, you can give it a whirl. I think I saw some people out actually playing it. I have not tried it yet, although it'll be on my short list to give a shot. We should probably also mention, while I'm thinking about it, our sister show ARG Presents out right now is our wacky, zany TurboGrafx 16 episode, Bo.
Hey, one of my favorites that we've done so far.
That was we had a good time with the TurboGrafx. It's a great machine, and I enjoyed your game despite myself, because I was sure it would be crap. And, of course, I enjoyed my game because I picked it. Have you ever played the TurboGrafx before, man?
No, I remember when it came out, though.
Really? Did anyone you knew had one? Did you know anyone that ever owned one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it did not do. Yeah. It did Amiga CD32 levels of bad in the States. Well, actually, I guess it wasn't even released, so it did better than that. But it was a lot of fun. So if you're into TurboGrafx, check that out. And then we are just hot off the presses off the newest ARG, which will be breaking out. I believe that'll get released next Wednesday, Boat. Is that right?
That's right.
And this episode will be arcade games. Me and Boat went to work on some arcade games, so we threw some of that together. So that should be a lot of fun. And upcoming in the future, there's some really interesting stuff coming up on ARG that should interest all of our European listeners.
Absolutely.
So that should be a lot of fun. I think that pretty much breaks it down, Boatster. If you got any other news?
No, I think it's time to jump into...
I did forget one thing.
What's that?
Our special guest, John, here, donated a hefty supply of what I'm hoping will be Amiga whitener to us. And so I'm hoping next time he comes around, we're gonna get crazy and dump some cases. What was that stuff called exactly, John? For people at home that might want to give it a shot.
Salon Care 40.
Salon Care 40.
Hair developer.
And give them a brief description of how you'd use it.
You just basically coat it with a paintbrush or something like that. Put plastic over it so it doesn't evaporate, and set it out in the sun is what most people are doing. It takes about 45 minutes to whiten, something like that.
And so it's like Retrobite, but cheap and better.
You just don't have to mix it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't include OxyClean or anything like that.
And tell them about the key thing you told me.
That's the 8-bit guy video that I saw where he was heating up distilled water to 170, putting in the liquid version of Salon Care 40, soaking the keys, and it takes about 15 minutes, I think.
Just dump the keys right in.
Cool.
So
love it.
We may give this a crazy shot.
I did hear about somebody that was trying it on a case in a larger version where they heated the water to 170 and said they got case warping.
Oh, well, we don't want that.
So they went back to using the Salon Care with plastic on it.
And the good news about it is that once we finish whitening all the cases, then I'll have all that Salon Care for my beautiful locks.
That's right. You're flowing.
Suds it up.
They did say, though, there's a problem with evaporation. If you let it evaporate completely, that it ruins it. But I'm not sure about that. They said that it's permanently coated with Salon Care.
Ooh,
you can't get it off. So that's why you have to put the plastic over it.
Have you ever considered dyeing your beard just a snowy white?
Dyeing it? I would never dye my beard. I'm a real man.
I would love to see you walking in here like Gandalf one day.
I've dressed as Gandalf before. It didn't go well.
Why not?
Because Gandalf's not a fat, bald dork. That's why. Gandalf's a sleek, silver, cool guy.
You know what they say? The first steps is the beard.
I'm more like the Andre the Giant of the Hobbits. That'd be me.
Man, that's a great Halloween costume.
There you go.
All right, Aaron, it's time to talk Waxworks.
It's time to talk Waxworks.
So, just wanted everybody to know before we jump in that this game was suggested by Amigos Game Selection Committee member Adam Battersby. He has selected this game to be his game for the month.
Yes, and tell them how you can become a member of that elite squad.
If you would like to support Amigos, you can go to amigos.com. Nope, that's not right. You can go to patreon.com/AmigosPodcast. And there are multiple levels you can support the show with. But if you select the Amigos Game Selection Committee member level, then you get to choose one game a month for us to talk about on the show.
You know, I've got a cunning plan.
Okay, I'm all ears. Go on.
We both have trouble with that, and I really have trouble with these URLs. We should buy up everything that has Amigos in it. Mm-hmm. And that way, no matter what we say, Amigos t-shirt.uk.co, and that way we're covered for our various screw-ups.
Aaron Dowdy got paid.biz.
That's right. Money.com. Let's talk about Waxworks.
Okay.
First of all, have either of you ever been to a wax museum?
No, Ripley's, that's as close as I've been.
That's pretty close. What about you, Boat?
I have been to Madame Tussauds in London.
The number one wax museum probably on the planet. And so how was it?
It was amazing. It was amazing how real everything looked.
Is there a horror gallery in there?
No, not really. It's not like the one at Ripley's or this one, at least not that I saw. Now, maybe there was like a pathway somewhere that I didn't see, but this was mostly just celebrities. I mean, I remember they had, what's his name, Patrick Stewart, Audrey Hepburn, Pope John Paul II, Oscar Wilde, Ali was there. I mean,
no zombies, no mummies.
And the thing that's cool about it is they let you get right up on top of these guys. Like you can put your arm around them.
Really?
You can, yeah. And so
that's crazy. I wonder how long those things last.
I don't know. I was shocked that they let you get as close to them as they do.
I've been to a couple of wax museums, not of that quality. Your beach variety, your crummy amusement park variety.
I think that the horror stuff, because it is sort of mangled corpses and stuff, it's easier to get by with a less skilled artist.
Yeah, you're probably right. Because if they botch, you just feel like that's a scar.
Right, exactly.
That's a good deal. So, with that in mind, this is a game that begins, at least, in a wax museum. Waxworks, again, this came out in 1993, developed by a nutty outfit called HorrorSoft. Now, We have a checkered past with Horrorsoft.
I wouldn't call it checkered. I'd call it black.
Boat actually hates Horrorsoft. I have a soft spot in my heart.
Well, you remember what Horrorsoft was before they were Horrorsoft.
What were they? They were Tinsoft. Well, Tyne. Okay. I know what you're going to say. I mispronounced it.
What do you know why I know you mispronounced it?
Because I did it the last time we covered this.
And do you know why I know? Because at the beginning of the games that they made, when they were Tinsoft, they say there's a voice sample that says Tinsoft presents.
What have you played that was from them?
Oh my gosh, you don't remember?
No. What did we play that was from them? I remember Horrorsoft, but I don't remember Tinsoft.
Tinsoft were the brains behind first-person pinball.
Oh gosh, no wonder you remember that?
I remember lots of things from
Man,
that
that is creeperoo.
A game like first-person pinball doesn't leave.
I mean, I remember the game, but I don't remember that.
So when you say we have a checkered past with them, it's not checkered.
You're right. I left that one out.
Black.
Holy smokes! Well, they also, folks, they were responsible for the beloved, highly regarded Elvira series, and which I liked way more than Boat, but still not much. And these guys, amazingly, would go on to be AdventureSoft, and they would do all the Simon the Sorcerer games.
Which were much better.
And something I found out, and while we're here, we'll go ahead and mention it, a couple of the guys that were basically the brains behind the outfit, the designers, were Mike Woodruff and Alan Bridgman and Simon Woodruff. This is sort of a family affair. You had a couple families that were running this. But here's the interesting thing for me. I didn't know that until this episode. Mike Woodruff was one of the producers behind Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth, which is a tremendous game.
Why have we not done that on the show before?
Because that's not an Amiga game.
Oh.
That was many years later. It's probably there's no probably to it. It's my favorite horror type game of all time. You ever played a Cthulhu game? I'm a big Cthulhu guy. I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft guy, as we've covered. And this was a great game. So and unfortunately, it was the game that ended his company. So unfortunately, but still, much like this game ended Horrorsoft. So this was published by Accolade. I was going through Accolade's what they'd published over the years.
They've really gotten a lot of accolades over the years.
They've got a lot of good games. Okay, you got your Fourth and Inches. Cool game. I mean, it's old but fun. You got your bar games. I love bar games, as you know.
Love bar games.
You got your hardball series. Love the hardballs. They were fun, right? You got your Star Control, right? You got your Jack Nicklaus Golf, right? I believe one of your favorites.
I do. I like it a lot.
You got your Test Drives, and you got your Mean 18, which is a good golf game. So that's a lot of good. And they did like 50, 60 games, or something like that. But those are all top shelf titles.
I'm sure there were some not so top shelf, but
I picked out the best ones.
The cream was really.
I picked out the best ones. This game, another neat aspect. It was in you got your English, French, and your German. All right, so it's got multiple language. Actually, believe it or not, I loaded up the German one accidentally, and I was really puzzled. I was like, "What in the?" So but this would probably be a pretty easy candidate for that because most of it's a visual. This ran on the ECS, OCS. It came on 400 discs. All right, it came on 10 big discs. 10 is my limit on discs right there.
Is that your limit?
And
9 is fine, but 10 is too much.
And I was thinking to myself, holy smokes, to sit and play this on disc would be unbelievable monotony of swapping discs. I mean, of course, Monkey Island came with a bunch of discs. There's a lot of games that came with a lot of discs.
Monkey Island is a slower paced game. This is not a game you can hang around in too long.
No, you cannot, as we'll get into. So, what is Waxworks? Well, and believe it or not, one of the things I will give this game credit for, it's got an incredible backstory. The game tells you the backstory. Basically, you come up to this Waxworks and Wax Museum, and this big bruiser. It looks like if Riff Raff were on steroids. This big monster.
Lurch-like.
Yeah, he answers the door and he's expecting. And the gimmick in this game is you're a half of a set of twins, and your family is cursed. And every time twins are born into the family, you got a good twin and you got a bad. It's like me and Brent. Right? I'm the good one. He's the bad one. But unlike Brent, the bad one gets a lot of stuff done in this game, and he does a lot of evil, and so the curse continues. And so your ancestor contacts you in this crystal ball and says, "Listen, you need to go back and you need to stop this crap. You need to go through and you have to go back. We're going to send you back in various time periods, and you're going to correct the scummy things that your ancestors did. And the portal to get to these various places is the Wax Museum, and it's in exhibits that are held therein. Right now, it mentions that you should have read a letter before you even play the game. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go back and take a look at this letter. Let me tell you something. This ain't a letter, brother. This is a freaking novella that they wrote. It was long. I mean, they must have, it was the longest docs I've ever seen on an Amiga game. And I thought, holy smokes, they really poured it into this game in terms of the backstory to it. And so what you've got here is a point-and-click game with some wrinkles. It's a lot like the Elvira games. You can move around with the on-screen arrows. You can use a keyboard, and you've got a cursor on the screen, and you've got a window that has what you're seeing. You've got a directional pad to like your middle right or middle left. That also can be a compass, depending on what you want. On the right, you've got like a representation of what your hands and some other stuff you can do. And at the bottom, you've got your inventory. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. And then there's a window on the right that when you touch something on the screen that give you choices, like to examine, to open, to do whatever, a little menu will pop up and give you those choices written out on the side. It's a pretty good system. So we'll start off with just talk about the system itself. I liked it in Elvira, and I kind of like it in this. In terms of, I think the drag and drop inventory is cool. I've always liked it on the Amiga. It's a great thing. And the directional pads, everything works like it should with a but, which I'll get to. Now, just in terms of the interface, what are your thoughts?
I thought the interface was fine. I thought it was I thought it was good. It's a different take on movement than, say, a game that's not first person.
Right.
But I think that they did it just about the best that they could as far as the interface goes.
Sure. So here's the thing that the interface has that I don't like, which is not the interface's fault. This is your typical point and click Elvira type game where really they're all the same. You advance sort of like a screen at a time. Mm-hmm. And so visually the screen in front of you will update. So if you're walking down a hall and there's a door at the end of the hall, every time you click forward one, you'll basically go up a step,
right,
a grid space, or whatever you want to say, till you're at the door, which is fine and dandy, but it is confusing as hell. I was lost all the time. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's not unusual, and this is a game where it literally tells you, get out a pen and paper in the docs. You're going to be writing some maps up. It's old school, right? But man, having a point of reference in this is difficult, particularly given the various adventures you go on, because your environment is very similar. I mean, it is ridiculous.
Some stages are worse than others when it comes to that, too.
They're all bad. I can't think of one that was less bad than the others. I thought they were all bad. Go ahead, let's hear it.
The Egypt stage is the worst by far.
It is.
Because there are no guideposts at all. Like this, you've got different storefronts. Some are lit, some are not.
Well, let's go over what your various missions are in this. So when you go into the Wax Museum, the crypt keeper guy says, "Listen, you get to pick one of these things." So you've got some choices here. You've got there's an Egyptian exhibit where you can go back and try to thwart your ancestors' plans there. Then you've got a Jack the Ripper sort of affair where you go back and basically try to stop Jack the Ripper because guess what? He's one of your ancestors. You've got a mine that you go down where there are these weird mutants that are down there. Again, the same difference. You're going back to stop them. And then you've got like a graveyard. Right? Now, when you go up to these exhibits, there's a little plaque you can read, and you can literally click on it and enter. There's a flash of light. You go in and you start somewhere on the map.
Right.
So, just as an example, if you go for the graveyard one, and you're in this one, I believe you're going after a necromancer. You appear in the graveyard. It's night, and everywhere around you are graves, and you start in the middle. That's it. Mm-hmm. You've got nothing. And it's your job to go to this graveyard, explore it, and try to figure out ways to do things. For you guys that have listened to our shows before, you'll recall that I'm not good at doing things. The first one I chose was the Egyptian one. All right, I appeared. I walked 2 steps down the hall. An Egyptian came up to me and dropped me like that, dead as a doornail. That was the level. That was my experience with the game. And then there was a grotesque scene of me being all dead. So I thought, well, screw this. I'm going to go to the mine. I went 2 or 3 spots. A weird mutant came up and licked me a few times. Then my guy broke out with a hideous rash and he died. That was the end of that. This game's tough to get started on. I like the fact that they present you with 4 different adventures to start off in. I think that was cool. It gives and doesn't limit you to which portal you go in. So you can pick the portal you want to go into, which is cool. If you get frustrated on one, you can go to the other one. You can save your games, which is fine. It's just the actual gameplay that is puzzling to me, because in a game, say like in most of these games, you're not really in a real-time situation, right? At least the ones I've played. I'm sure there's some. So you can sit there and at least try to figure out what you're doing. If you're trying to map these levels, like I was drawing a remedial map, and I'd be drawing this map, and here comes a bad guy, and then you're running. Well, then you're confused
because then whatever you've drawn means nothing.
Right?
Because you've left the area,
and it drove me absolutely nuts. And I spent I'm not gonna lie, I spent a very frustrating week trying to beat at least one of these worlds. And I didn't, and I finally gave up and watched a walkthrough, which I hate to do on these, but we talked about it. I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice. And I watched a walkthrough, and after watching that, it didn't help me one bit. It's still difficult as hell to get around, even when you see someone else do it. So yeah, I was frustrated. What do you think? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I think any game that requires you to really make a map of your surroundings or be aware of your surroundings in a way that it's not immediately apparent, but at the same time constantly puts the threat of death upon you is gonna lead to a frustrating experience. Because like you said, if you're trying to play the game the right way and build a map, and I realize that you can find, like in England you can find a map, but you're not going to find it right off the bat, that's for sure, and you're basically trying to wander around these dark streets. You can't fully experience the environment because you're always on the run. Now, I understand that they want to create an intense, environment, and they want you to feel scared and be on the run. But if they did that, they should have provided an in-game map for you to negotiate.
Yeah, that would have been the bare minimum for me. Would be an in-game map. Now, a lot of games of this year did not have an in-game map.
What year? This is 1993.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's in that.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a game where you can see where they did it.
Right.
This game may be responsible for the in-game map feature because.
Well, it's funny because I was streaming this, and one of the people in the chat, it might have been Henrik or Eric or somebody, they sent me a link to some, I think it was Czechoslovakian Amiga magazine that actually had the maps plotted out. And man, these maps are huge. I mean,
really?
These areas,
it's hard to tell how big they are.
I mean, I guess they were plotted out square by square, but like in the Egypt map, there's no way I would have ever figured that out on my own. It's crazy.
Well, what really is frustrating to me is underneath all this, there's a very intriguing game to a certain degree. The plot is interesting, I think. Now, I think the Waxworks angle, you could have really strapped anything on the front of this. Really, they don't use. I would like to have seen them use the Waxworks as something. I mean, you could have said, okay, you've got a time machine, you've got a magic book. You could have used anything. Really, the Waxworks, it's just sort of a way to have a hub to go to these different places.
I think it's pretty creative.
It's okay, but I mean, what do they do with it though? You have the exhibits. That's it.
Yeah, but I mean,
you could have been in a museum. It could have been anything.
Right, but I mean, it's in video games too often. It's just like, oh, here, take this. Here's this time machine, and you can go back.
I guess if you're gonna do a wax, I want to see like a guy getting thrown in a vat of wax. I want to see a guy, I want to see someone like melting, and there's a person in the wax. You know, something like that.
Okay.
Some more wax stuff.
Okay.
And they didn't. You didn't get that.
Yeah, none of that.
The graphics. Now let's talk about the graphics. Now, because we've been killing this thing. The graphics in this thing are great. They were done by Paul Drummond, Kevin Preston, Maria Drummond, and Jill Wall. These are some top shelf graphics on this thing. There's some animated graphics. The animation with the crystal ball, there's a guy inside of it talking. It's freaking awesome. When you bamf into an exhibit, there's a sort of like a flash. It looks great. It's really cool. When you die in this game, which this game, I guess if there's anything known about it, is the death scenes. They are, which you'll see them. No wonder they spent so much time working on them, because you get killed in every conceivable way. Throat slashed, junk cut off, melted, burned, all kinds of crazy ways. And there are some awesome scenes of your death. It reminded me of like the 3D point and click, or the 2D point and click version of Dragon's Lair. Just like everyone likes to see dirt.
A much gorier version of that.
I know you're not a big fan of the gore. Was it over the top for you?
Well, I've got to recognize this game for what it is. It's a horror title.
Right.
The developer is HorrorSoft. So, you expect there to be gore and blood and stuff like that. You expect yourself to go to a grisly demise. So it didn't bother me, because that's what you sign up for when you play this game.
Well, it definitely it's way like Elvira had a couple of things like that. There was some gory, but this is like
that's its calling card. Really.
Yeah, it's way over the top on the gore on this thing. You'll be surprised to hear this one, Bo. There's an outfit out there that's working on a sort of a sequel to this, believe it or not. It's called Waxworks Special Edition. All right, the outfit is called Want to Play. Now I checked, and because they've had this license for some time, and they had updates to the work on this game as of October of last year. Pretty close. So get this. Now listen to this wackiness. It's the same game, but they're going to use the Unreal 4 engine. All right. They're going to have new maps. They're going to have a mini map like we were talking about. They're going to have better animation. They've got some stuff they've already done. It's got a 3D user interface. It looks good, just from what they've shown. It could never see the light of day because this company must be super duper tiny. But as of, like I said, last year, they were still working on it late last year. So, might be kind of neat. If they would make this game with a in-game map. The graphics weren't the problem for me.
Right,
the map is the thing. You put an in-game map in it, that'd be cool. Now the combat, we should probably talk about the combat.
Actually, that was a huge stumbling block for me.
Let's hear your thoughts on it.
Because I read and I was told in the stream, they're like, well, you can attack different parts of the body in this.
Right.
And you can do this and that. I wasn't able to do anything. I was just jabbing. I was trying to move the mouse in all different kinds of ways, and I just got destroyed every time. I mean, I did manage to beat the Egyptian in the one of the Egyptians, but there's multiple Egyptians, and you lose health and you don't get it back.
Yeah, well, you do get it back if you level.
Yeah.
Or you also get the guy in the globe can give you some health back.
And that's another thing. Before we talk about the combat, this game, your experience is calculated in an odd way. You basically gain experience by walking around.
I noticed that. You really should, in this game, just by not dying, you should get experience. That's the way I looked at it. Just you've got the experience of seeing a few extra seconds of nothing before you get killed.
Right. Oh, it was Hasifa that sent me. Christopher Hassel sent me the link to that Czechoslovakian Amiga magazine.
So. The combat in this is actually kind of cool, and if you know what you're doing, it can be real cool. I was watching a guy online play it, and he was blocking and parrying with a knife and all that stuff. You do get to attack, like, for example, when you went to the graveyard, did you ever see the zombies?
Oh, I saw a lot of them before they destroyed me.
If you get I think it's a sickle, you can whack these guys, and it's cool, and they actually take damage. Mm-hmm. In a way.
Right.
But you can actually hack off an arm, and they're still fighting you. You can hack off their other arm, they're still trying to bite you, and then you can finally cut their head off. And you don't have to do it in that order. I saw the guy in the video cut their head off, and they're still punching, and kicking. So I thought that was kind of cool. The combat is weird. It's odd to have a real-time combat in a game like this. It's almost like this game's sort of like if you watered down. I don't know, like. Eye of the Beholder, basically, and then, but I mean, I don't even know if you can do that. Eye of the Beholder target a specific area. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I kind of like it, but if this was a little more fluid, and I'm not sure I want this in my point and click adventure either, because there's a certain element here of a lot of people that play these aren't necessarily good gamers. In terms of Twitch gaming.
The reason why I got into these, as a kid was because I wasn't the best video game player, and this was something I could beat. All it took was time.
Yeah. So that's sort of a pick your poison. If you're into that kind of real-time combat aspect of it, you might dig it, and if you're not, you might hate it. What did you think of the music in this? I found an interesting tidbit out about
the music was. I mean, I could tell that they were trying to create an atmosphere of suspense,
and it does change occasionally. What's something
like when you in the England level, when you go into the bar, you hear that ragtime music, or whatever. It was fine.
So get this, the music's it got from a dude named Jazz. Is it Jazz? Jazz. Jezz. I want to make sure I read that right. Woodruff. Right. Mm-hmm. He's a session musician who's played with Robert Plant, Black Sabbath, and other bands of that era. So they actually had a guy who actually...
That's pretty cool.
That's kind of neat. And the music was pretty good. Here's the bad part of the music. You would hear it
it's very
a million zillion times.
Yeah.
And since it takes so long for the music to change, for you to get somewhere important, it gets very repetitive.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That Egyptian music, I'm going to hear it in my sleep.
Yeah.
That was the only level where I had any good success, because you get a dagger early. If you have just your bare hands and you're starting to weld, you're screwed. I don't think you could beat anybody with your bare hands.
No.
But if you've got a weapon, you can get somewhere. Mm-hmm. So on that level, I was good at hacking up guards or priests or whatever came around. So I get to look at that level a lot. And it's a good looking, like I said, a lot of it's good looking. But man, that music really started to grate on me. The most frustrating level for me was probably the cemetery. That level, that cemetery is just so hard to move around in. At least in the pyramid level, you can go somewhere. Mm-hmm. You'll get to a point in the cemetery where you're trapped and there's a zombie on you and you're just basically screwed. Yeah. And if you don't have it took me forever just to find a weapon in that level.
Yeah, I had that same experience.
In the level where you're Jack the Ripper, you have to. This is one of those games where you are stopping Jack the Ripper. People think you're Jack the Ripper, and so you have to go. There are things. This is one of those games where you have to have knowledge. And you have to be very mindful of what people are saying. Mm-hmm. So, for example, there's a puzzle in it where you need to get this address book from a pimp, right? And so you go to the bar and talk to the bartender, and he says, "Watch out for that guy right there. He's a purse snatcher." So then you have to have the right trinket to get this purse snatcher to go over and steal the pimp's address book to get the address. I would never have thought of that in 10 million years.
Right. It's a game that. They were really, it's very ambitious in all of the things they were trying to shoehorn into this one title.
You play a lot of these games, okay? Did you find these little puzzles more difficult than they are in most games? I played Monkey Island. I got halfway decently through that one.
Monkey Island is one of the easier games of the genre.
I need those.
Things really went off the rails at this time in adventure gaming, and that's part of the reason why point-and-click adventure games went away, is because the puzzles just got way too esoteric. There's a classic example of you have to shave the cat to get the cat hair to tape it onto your driver's license to disguise your ID to give it. That was a puzzle.
What game was that?
That was one of the.
Shaved your cat?
Yeah. I'm serious. So things got bad.
Yeah, so. This is where this game is where we're heading to that.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to me like the puzzles are really tough. Mm-hmm. And when I say puzzles, I saw when watching a walkthrough, there were a guy that actually got to some puzzles. Mm-hmm. I never saw actual puzzles. I was just trying to get.
They're not really puzzles. It's just it's basically a lot of trial and error. Click on this and then click on that, match this to that, offer this guy this thing, and eventually you work it out somehow.
Well, overall, to take this to the house. I like the subject matter. I like the plot. I like the fact that they put a lot of thought into it. I like the fact that it's a dark game and it lets you pick your own levels. I like the graphics. I even sort of like the combat, but I wish it was just combat or the puzzles, but not both. Mm-hmm. If it was a game that was strictly a combat type game, I could probably got into it a little bit more, where I could have a little more success. I don't like the not having in-game maps. That was the worst. The repetitive music, the huge leaps in logic. It's just too hard for me. I'm not too big a man to admit that I just couldn't figure it out, man.
Yeah.
Your thoughts? Final
Same.
thoughts? Yeah. This reviewed pretty well back in the day. Amiga Action gave it a 91. Amiga Computing gave it a 94. Amiga Format gave it a 72, so they didn't get it. CU Amiga gave it a 91, and the One gave it a 78. So you've got...
Still, though, those are relatively high scores.
Where would you rate this? I mean, I know we don't review games, but in terms of like a letter grade, since you're a teacher, where would you put this one? This is kind of one of those wacky ones where it's tough.
Yeah. I'd probably give it a B.
I would probably give it a C+, just because it's the good parts of it are weighed out, or similarly weighed with the bad parts. So to me, it makes it sort of average on the whole.
Yeah.
I eBayed this bad boy. Believe it or not, I found a copy of this in the States. It was the discs only, $10, $1 a disc, not bad. In the UK,
did they come with a rubber band around them?
they did. They actually had the code wheel too, which is surprising. This does have a code wheel, which is hacked out of all the cool versions at the beginning. And then the UK, of course, as always, it's a cornucopia of goodies over there. Eight American dollar bill, so it's a £5, something like that. You take it to the house in the box. Now, if you're in Germany, you've got someone looking to score. The only one I could find, and he's been running this thing day in, day out for a year, 145 US dollars.
Wow.
So I don't think I'll be picking this one up in German.
No.
But yeah, it was an interesting game. It's I don't know if I'd go back to it. It was much more fun to watch than it was to play, that's for sure. And even it wasn't that fun to watch due to all the running around the maze. But
Yeah.
you can't have them all. You can't win them all, Boat.
That's right. Speaking of winning, I'd like to announce the winner of last week's Patreon song challenge. This is actually 3 weeks ago now, because we had our little
I can't even remember what the song. Can you do a little bit?
The song was, oh man, I can't even remember what it was now.
I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, I can't remember what.
Was it Nirvana? Was it that one?
No, whatever it was. I think it was Tom Petty.
Yeah, that's what it was. Free Falling. I won't back down. That's right.
Did
you get it?
Yeah.
I'd like to
First
congratulate
couple of notes.
Darren Coles. Well done, Darren. You are the winner this week. Your favorite episode was the 2018 New Year's predictions episode. So
really?
I created this custom card for you here, and that will be sent to you in the mail soon. I'd also like to thank Ed Van Halen for also entering.
Eddie Van Halen?
Eddie Van Halen. Before we get out of here with the Patreon people, I'd just like to remind everybody that if you'd like to buy some Amigos apparel, like both John and Aaron are wearing, you can check out our store at tpublic.com/store/AmigaTees.
Wow.
Or you can just go to tpublic.com and type in Amiga Tees. We've got a whole wide array of both Amigos shirts and ARG Presents shirts. Don't forget to check out our sister show, ARG Presents, where we talk about systems that aren't the Amiga. And finally, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and Google+.
And YouTube. Sign up for our page, man. We're getting somewhere near 1,000 subscribers.
Absolutely.
And I think we get a pony if we get 1,000 subscribers.
YouTube sends you a pony.
Yeah, they do.
Class.
Hey, who was it that was wearing your shirt?
Oh, that was John Cook.
John Cook. And tell him about this shirt. I'd only seen that one picture of it.
So this is a newer design on our store. This is a based on one of our ARG Presents episodes, our Game Boy episode.
It's the one where you yelled at me.
Yeah, it's
you yelled at me because you thought I was bad.
So it is Zelda is not an RPG. That is the.
Look how mad you are on the shirt. That was exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I thought he might strike me, John. I'm glad you're here now to keep him, in case I badmouth something else. He's very passionate about Zelda.
So
that RPG.
You can check those all out over at TeePublic, and of course, every purchase you make helps support the show. Aaron, it's now time to thank our Patreon supporters.
All right, man.
All right, so This week, again, the song challenge is on. If you know the name of this song, then just send us an email. You can send it to john@amigospodcast.com, and I will choose a winner from the entries to award a custom Amigos postcard. So make sure you mention your favorite Amigos episode and your mailing address. So, here we go.
Oh, God, no.
Wait a minute, I forgot what I was doing. Oh, yeah.
He beat him so stupid.
Dan Ross, Leaf Kalana, Kebab, Donatello, Level Lord, John Marshall, Matthew Perrin, Ricky Durisho, Gippy Dead Boy, Figure CTZ, Slow Norris, Stephenson, Gordon Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Blender 75, Christopher Hassel, Rivy Abbott, Chris Foles, Dream, Catching Orange, Rue, Graham, Bebke, Brent, Daddy Lane, Denson, Madam Matters, B. Joe, Brian's Retro and Vintage, Gary Hucker, see Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Stiles, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Will Williams, Adam Battersby, Jonas Rulo, Tia Shiak Nelson, Kim, Tommy Humbert, Stad, Daniel Banks, The Brutal Barracuda, Darren Wolves, Jason Warren's Pixels at Dawn, and Kjell Bjorn Barman.
Yeah.
All right, so again, if you know
Wow.
what that was, then you send your responses to john@amigospodcast.com.
Unfortunately, you deafened all the listeners when you were beating your chest like a gorilla.
Well, I was going to do the I was going to accompany myself.
Is that what you were going to do? I thought we were going to leave the room when you started doing that.
Aaron, next week
Yes.
we are going to play Hired Guns.
Hired guns.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody,
I've heard good things.
Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, we record this live every Friday night at 5:30 Eastern Time. We record this and ARG Presents back-to-back. We'd like to thank everybody that was in the chat with us this evening on YouTube. We've got Eric Sundstrom, Duncan Stiles, Steve Rasmussen, Pixels at Dawn, Hasifa Zerfall, UK Retro Gamer, anybody that I might have missed, thank you so much for...
John?
I've already got one entry.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Live on the
So,
air. Someone's
live on
did
the
they get
air.
it?
They got it.
Wow.
But I'm gonna pick the names randomly so as not to be unfair to those
That
that
is
might be
incredible.
listening later on. But
And he knows it too.
Yeah.
He might just hit you later and just take it.
so thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for supporting the Amigos and all of our wacky endeavors. We will see you next week. Until then, adios.